Okay, hello there, Hollows. This is a spontaneous video. I didn't really think I'd be doing this, but I thought, since I have just finished the Resident Evil 4 remake, I might as well do a video on it, right? Like, there's no reason not to. It's not exactly going to take that long for me to do a video on it, and I might as well. I know it's not necessarily to the interests of everyone on my channel, it being a Dark Souls and Souls-like channel mainly, but I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil series, and there is a Resident Evil 1 analysis on my channel, which will be linked down in the description if you haven't seen it. It's about half an hour, 35 minutes, analysis of the original Resident Evil game. And I thought I would do a brief review of the Resident Evil 4 remake, because I finished it today. I've played it like crazy over the last couple of days. I played about 8 hours the day that it came out. I played about 5 hours the day after, and then yesterday and today I've just generally finished it off. I will say that I think it is good. I think that it's a very, very good remake. If I was going to give it a score, I'm going to start off by saying I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It does some things very, very well, and other things I think not so well. I'm going to start off by saying that this is going to be mostly spoiler-free. I'm not really going to talk about the spoilers in the game. Not that there's really anything to spoil, but I'm just going to show gameplay of the earlier sections of the game. Not the island and not the castle, because that's what some might consider more of a spoiler, I suppose, because they've shown a lot more of the village section, like the demo was the village section. So, the game, I think it's incredibly, incredibly faithful to the original, which is a good thing, I think. It's definitely a good thing, because Resident Evil 4, in my opinion, is a game that didn't need a remake anyway, because the 2005 version of that game still looks good, it still holds up very well. Yes, there's some annoyances like how you can't move whilst you're shooting, things like that, which don't really make sense logically, but they are part of the game, and it sort of contributes to the almost restrictive controls that increase the fear, which is something that I think Resident Evil 4 actually manages to retain, even though you still can move whilst you shoot. The original Resident Evil 4, it was the first horror game I ever played, and it absolutely scared the shit out of me when I originally played that game. It literally, I would have been, I don't know, 9, 10 or whatever playing that game, and it really scared the daylights out of me. The chainsaw zombies were really freaky, and the regenerators scared the crap out of me as well, and I absolutely loved the game. I played it so much, and then I played it again, and I played the Mercenaries separate ways, Assignment Ada, and I absolutely loved all of it when I was young. And it was the kind of game where, because it was my first horror game, it was almost addictive. Like, it was really scary, but the game was so fun that I still kept coming back to it. And I think if a new person picked up Resident Evil 4 now and the remake, I think it would have the same appeal, because it still is very scary, and in fact they've actually increased the scare factor in some sections. And I think because the game doesn't have tank controls and it doesn't feel sluggish to move your character about, but your character, I feel, still does not move as quick as you would like, and therefore, because the enemies are quick as well sometimes, it means that you can never really outrun them. You can never really get enough distance away from the enemy to feel comfortable, which is really good, because that's something that the original Resident Evil 4 did as well. Because you couldn't move when you were shooting, and you moved relatively slow, it meant that the enemies were always right on your heels, and this remake does that still, which is really good, and it does heighten the tension a lot. The village section of the game, I think, is the most faithful out of every section of the game. It is so faithful, in fact, that I think it's not to its detriment, but I think it means that an experienced player will be very, very, very familiar and will easily get through that section like nothing. The only thing that annoys me about the village section is the removal of some puzzles. Like, for example, there's a puzzle that was always behind the back of the church, and you had to sort of rotate these orbs and try and get them into a certain order, and it allowed you to access a treasure. That puzzle I got stuck on for ages when I was a kid, and it took me a really long time to figure it out. And that is just one example. There are several puzzles which have been removed from the game, which I don't like, because to me, one of the biggest aspects of survival horror is having puzzles. Because it's the kind of thing where, I suppose because Resident Evil started it, it means that you expect it to honour the tradition, in a way. So because the original Resident Evil 1, had lots of puzzles in the game, I do expect the Resident Evil series to continue. And Resident Evil 4 did still have a lot of puzzles, and it does still have a lot of puzzles. Even in the remake, there are still a lot of puzzles. However, I feel like all of the puzzles are easy. There's no puzzle that's really you're going to get stuck on, because they're all the kind of puzzles that are very much seen in AAA games now. There's a podcast that I listen to by some game developers. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me because I haven't listened to it for a while. But they go through several game development techniques, and one of the things they say they learned when they were making their games is the kind of puzzle that they use in Resident Evil 4, where it's a puzzle that looks complicated, and it looks difficult, and it looks like it's going to take you a while to do it, but really there's only so many possibilities before you will always get the answer. No matter what you do, within a certain amount of time, you are always going to get the answer, because the puzzle is made in such a way that it makes you feel clever by doing it, even though really anyone could figure it out. Just by guessing, just by a process of elimination, or just by sheer luck, eventually you will get it, because there's only so many combinations, so eventually, no matter what, you're always going to get the answer. Those are the kind of puzzles that are in the Resident Evil 4 remake, which I'm not a big fan of. There's only, I think, 2 exceptions to this. One of the exceptions to this is the puzzle that's in the church, which is very similar to the original one, where you have to rotate the glass, the coloured glass, in a certain way to create the insignia of the Salazar family. Or is it? Yeah, it is the Salazar insignia, is it? Or is it the Salvador? I don't know. It's something like that. I could be saying Salazar because of Salazar Slytherin, because I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy stuff. But that's probably the only exception, because that was like that in the original, and they've kept that puzzle, probably because it's quite iconic, because it's in the earlier sections of the game, they've kept that the same. The only other one as well is there is a certain puzzle that's also in the village, ironically, where the combination to it is found on a little note that you need to find in a house, and it's a combination to a lock, and the only way to get the combination to a lock is by finding this certain note that's in the house. It's still very simple, but at least with that one, you can't actually get the solution unless you find this note, but even then, eventually you would think to go and find this certain note just by looking. There was one other puzzle that I liked, and that was in again in the village section, when you're going around the boat and you have to try and find the certain little symbols that are on a wall, and you have to try and look at them from a certain angle to see the symbol, and then that symbol corresponds to something you need to put in on a certain puzzle. So there was, I'd say, 3 puzzles in this game that I actually like. All of the other puzzles are what I said, where they're just very, very simple, and you can take about 2 minutes to figure it out, really, at the most, and they're just meant to make you feel good. But like there are a couple of exceptions, so I'll give the game the benefit of the doubt. One other thing, which is a major flaw, I think, of the remake, is making a sort of the how should I say it? The player difficulty, the player control difficulty, not player control difficulty, sorry. It's a adaptive difficulty system, which I really, really don't like. Now, the original Resident Evil 4 did have this, but not to such a degree. In the original Resident Evil 4, if you continued to die at a certain section of the game would give you more ammo, and it would give you more herbs to help you progress in the game. This is the truth. A lot of people might not know it, but that is what used to happen. If you died a so many amount of times at a certain section of the game would give you more stuff to help you defeat the boss or defeat the section that you're getting stuck at. Okay, this is just the truth. This is how the game works. And this new Resident Evil 4 remake does that like crazy, to the point where I think it's because they haven't actually built the game well. So what I mean is, if you get stuck at a certain boss because you don't have enough ammo, the game will give you more and more and more and more and more and more and more ammo. So I got stuck at a certain boss fight in the game. I didn't get stuck at it, I should say. I literally just didn't have enough ammo to defeat this certain boss. because there was a certain encounter beforehand which meant that I used a lot of my ammo. And then when I got to this specific encounter, I didn't have any money because I'd spent a great amount of guns, and I didn't have any ammo to defeat this boss. So then I died, respawned, there was a little box in front of me, I broke the box, there was 10 handgun ammo. Then I died again, I still didn't have enough ammo. The next time I go there, there's 10 handgun ammo and another 10 handgun ammo. The next time I die, I go there, same box again, this time it's 30 submachine gun ammo and 10 handgun ammo. Okay? Then I die again, because I still don't have enough ammo. And then the next time I open that box, I have 30 submachine gun ammo, another 30 submachine gun ammo, 10 handgun ammo, and a green herb. Then I defeated the boss, because I've got easily enough ammo at that point. Because it's literally overcompensating at the end of it. It was overcompensating. But I personally feel like this is a massive design flaw, because the original Resident Evil 4 carefully spaced out the ammo in such a way that it never actually had to do that. The game had enough ammo sprinkled throughout the game so that you always, even though you were struggling for ammo at all times, there was always enough so that you just about could get through usually. If you were being conservative, you could just about get through each location, which meant that if you did struggle, the game only had to give you a little bit extra to help you get through a certain encounter. In this game, I feel like it's been built in a way where the game isn't as careful with the amount of ammo it's giving you. Sometimes it feels like it will give you loads of ammo at a certain section, but then you'll have a really tough encounter and it doesn't give you ammo straight after. Because in the original Resident Evil 4, there was a specific encounter with, I think it was the 2 crazy chainsaw ladies. And you fight the 2 crazy chainsaw ladies, and then straight afterwards, it did reward you with some stuff. It rewarded you with ammo, it rewarded you with a lot of things that you would need to build yourself back up to carry on in your game, so that you had enough to continue fighting. And in this game, it feels like it's the same encounter. You fight the chainsaw people, and then afterwards it doesn't reward you with as much stuff. I think that's the encounter I'm thinking of anyway, or it might be a similar one later. And it didn't reward you straight afterwards. In fact, then straight afterwards, I had another encounter, and I just died because I didn't have any ammo at all. I just had a knife, and there was nothing in the room for me to use. So I feel like the game is not designed as carefully as the original Resident Evil 4 in that regard, anyway. And when it does feel the need to give you stuff because you don't have enough ammo, it overcompensates. Whereas the original game would sort of give you a little bit extra here and there, but not massively like crazy, and not as quick anyway. It would at least make you bang your head against it a little bit before it started, giving you extra stuff. The final thing that I'm going to complain about in this video, again, remember, I'm still giving this game an 8 out of 10. But these are just nitpicks, because Resident Evil 4 is a game that I hold very, in high regard, the original Resident Evil 4. So these are nitpicks, really. But another thing is the minecart section, I think, has been absolutely destroyed in this game. The minecart section was one of my favourite moments in the original Resident Evil 4. And in this game, they absolutely destroyed it. And I mean absolutely ruined the minecart section. In the original Resident Evil 4, you were stuck in a minecart. In the minecart came lots of enemies, and using your limited ammo, you had to try and take down the enemies that came and attacked you whilst you're in the minecart. You still had control over your character, you were still moving, it wasn't some action set piece. You had control of your character, and you were attacked by an onslaught of enemies whilst you were in this really confined space. And that is what made that section awesome. Especially when they added in a chainsaw guy. They added in a chainsaw guy in the minecart. You're in this really, like, the main thing you do when you get attacked by a chainsaw guy is you run away. You run the hell away. Get distance. Because they can kill you instantly. Which they can't do in this game anyway if you've got a knife. They don't kill you instantly in this game anyway. But you need to get the hell away because they kill you straight away. And in this... So when they put you in a minecart with a chainsaw guy, you freak the fuck out. Because I can't get away. The main thing you've been doing throughout this whole game is trying to get away, get distance from the chainsaw guys, because they're going to kill you straight away. But... And so, yeah, when you're in the minecart, you can't do that, so you just freaking out. You have to use all your ammo, and it's bloody tough. And it was really freaky. It scared the crap out of me when I was young, because that's the thing. You feel safe by getting away. That's how you feel safe. But you try and run away and then take them out from a distance. And then if they get close to you, run away again and keep doing it until they're dead. But here you're trapped. And that's what made that section so awesome and one of the best parts of Resident Evil 4. They ruin it here. They don't just ruin it, they destroy it. The section is terrible in this game. It's one of the worst parts of the game. It's an action set piece where you're in a minecart and it's going, whoa, you're going super fast, you're jumping over things. Then, oh no, there's other minecarts that are coming up the side. You got to shoot them just one shot. One shot, and then it defeats the guys that are next to you. And then their minecarts fall away. And then, oh yes, there is a chainsaw one, but no, the chainsaw one can't even kill you. He doesn't even kill you. The chainsaw guy doesn't even attack you at all. He's trying to attack the minecart. You only need to shoot him about 5 times and then he's done. The chainsaw guy. They absolutely ruined the minecart section of this game, which I really, really do not like as well. But that's the end of the criticisms, because as a whole, with those exceptions that I mentioned there, Resident Evil 4 Remake is a very faithful remake that does still capture the atmosphere and tone of the original game. And the game, the weaker aspects of the game are improved. So I'm going to get on to a couple of the improvements here then. So the island section has been improved for the most part. It doesn't feel like it goes on as much now. You have the regenerators, which are really cool and still very freaky, and they are still very tough as well. And that whole section of the game has been improved, which I do like, because it was always the weakest aspect of Resident Evil 4. It's been improved slightly. It's still the weakest section, even in the Resident Evil 4 remake, but it's better. To me, it still feels like Resident Evil 4 should have ended after the castle section, but the island, it's a nice little bit of extra content, it feels like, really. The castle section has also been improved. I would say the castle section is now, they've brought the quality up so that it's almost the level of the village section. The village section is still by far the best part of the game. Even though I think it does go on a little bit, it is still by far the best section of the game. But the castle section has now been improved. They've brought the quality up a bit, and they've brought the quality of the island section up a bit. It's just, I think there's a few annoyances and niggles that I have with the game as a whole, and some of the decisions they made. They also removed some of the more quirky aspects of Resident Evil 4, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. There's a boss they did remove in the island section of the game, which I don't like either, because the boss, it wasn't one of the best bosses in the game, but it did sort of do almost what the minecart section did, where you're in a trapped, small, enclosed location. You have to try and solve a puzzle whilst getting away from this boss. It was a good section. It was one of the better parts of the island section, so it's a shame that they've removed it completely. But yeah, I think I'm going to conclude my review for Resident Evil 4 Remake here. Like I said, it's an 8 out of 10. It's still a very, very, very good game. Resident Evil 4 is still a fantastic game, so of course the remake is still going to be good as long as they're faithful, and this remake is very, very faithful. But I think there's just a few niggles that I have, which are why I still think the original Resident Evil 4 is probably a 9 out of 10, and this remake is an 8 out of 10. Just because of some of the annoyances that they've sort of done and the niggles. But I think it depends on your view of games as a whole. Like, I like to think the people that are watching my channel are probably people that like games that don't hold your hand. And that like games that want you to rise to a challenge instead of just giving you extra stuff to help you through an encounter. So therefore, I am that kind of person. So therefore, of course, I'm going to be approaching the game from that viewpoint. But if you are somebody who doesn't want a game that gets too hard, they don't want a game that you're just going to be banging your head against a wall for a while, then this game is good. It's good. It's for you. Because the game will give you that advantage when you are struggling, and it means that you won't ever really be dying that many times at any section of the game. I'd say if you're even just a decent gamer, then you won't die at any section of the game more than 3 times, I'd say, because the game will always give you enough ammo to get through everything, generally. And it will, if you need more herbs, it gives you more herbs. If you need anything, you need, like, for example, there was one section in the village section when I'd run out of herbs completely and I was at red health. I walked into a room, there was 3 herbs there straight away. 3 green herbs in that room immediately. And then the next room, I think there was another 1 as well. So that's 4 really close together because I was out of it. So that's the kind of thing. The game's making those decisions in the background so that the game is artificially tailoring this experience so that you're not struggling that much. I think I might have to play this game on the hardcore difficulty and see what it's like there to see if it actually is more like the original Resident Evil 4 experience. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to my channel member, T-Morts. Thank you, as always, for supporting the content I make on this channel. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Even share this video with anybody who enjoyed it. It was good enough. Thank you again for watching. This is Soul Reborn, signing out. Have a good one.